Okay, so I'm going to be shading a sphere today, and first I'm going to talk about the different pencils you would want to use. The lightest pencil I'm going to use is an F, and many light pencils have an H with a number by them. The higher the number with an H, the lighter the pencil is. Mine is actually an F, so it's a little different, but it's still a very light pencil. It can vary by brand. And then my medium pencil I'm going to use is an HB, which is right in the middle of the value scale of pencils. So the HB is my medium pencil. The 2B is a medium dark pencil. The B means it's on the darker side of the pencils. So the higher the number next to the B, the darker the pencil. And then this one doesn't really have a number. It's just called extra black, and it's a pretty dark pencil, probably like a 6B. So it's pretty soft lead and it's dark. So I'm going to actually start with my F, and I'm going to start by drawing a circle. So if you have a circle template or a compass or something to use to trace your circle, that usually works out best. And you want to start out with a light outline. And I like to add in my ground line in the beginning, so I know where the tabletop is and where the background is. And then we want to figure out where is our light source coming from. So I have a finished example here, and I always tell my students to look to show where the light source is. So in this case, I'm going to be pretty much using the same light source that you see here. So it's going to be coming from the upper right. So I like to draw that in for practice. And then once you have your light source in, you can go ahead and figure out where your highlights and shadows are. The highlight would be this area of the drawing, which is facing the light and receiving the most light. And then as you get further away from the light, the values tend to get darker. So we have the lighter values here, which would be about 10, 20, 30%. Those are the halftones. And then we have the core shadow, which is the darker values, which could be anywhere from 40 and up to 100%, depending on how dark the shadows are. And then you have something called reflected light, which is where the light bounces back up off the table. And that's usually a little bit lighter than the values above it. In this case, mine's about 20%. And then we have the cast shadow, which is the shadow cast from the form itself. That's usually pretty dark. It could be anywhere from 50 to 100%, and it usually gets a little lighter in the outer edges. So this is my guide right here. Okay, so to start shading, some of my students have a hard time getting the shape, so I'll tell them to kind of lightly draw in the shape of the shadow, which is the shape of a crescent moon. So just very lightly sketch it in. And then when you're shading light, you want to hold your pencil from the very back. It helps you to not press so hard when you're shading. I actually like to shade the whole thing in with a really light value to start with. So I'm just kind of adding a base tone. And I also shade a little bit beyond the outline that I made. Okay, so that's the first step. And then I like to actually go to the back of the sphere and start shading my darker values, which would be this area right here, the core shadow. I'm going to switch pencils as well. Probably jump up to a 2B. And my preference is cross-hatching, or kind of like a scribbly cross-hatching. I don't know if there's a real name for it, but what's important is that you change the direction of your pencil lines often rather than keep them the same direction, because then you won't be able to blend into the next area. I'm gonna switch to my HB pencil now because I'm getting lighter. So, I mean, I could use the same pencil, but this one is a lighter pencil a little bit. So I'll just go ahead and switch. So as I'm moving closer to the light, I'm shading softer and trying to hold my pencil towards the back so I don't press so hard. Okay, so now I'm just kind of going back over it with my light pencil, kind of blending everything in a little bit more where it didn't maybe blend so well, where I didn't blend it so well. And I'm gonna now go back in with my, I like to use my extra black pencil to kind of darken this up a bit more. It's a really soft pencil lead, so I like to use this for the darker values back here. And then I'm going to go ahead and shade in my reflected light a little bit more so that it's about 10 or 20% lighter than the shadow above it. All right, so now that I've pretty much shaded the sphere, I'm gonna shade the cast shadow. And I'm just gonna stick with my dark pencil. It is helpful to kind of draw an outline, at least a light outline of it. And then, of course, you want your outline to go away eventually by shading over it or erasing it. You wanna make sure you get right up along the edge. The bottom edge of your sphere, and then you can blend out from there. And as I go out this way, I'm going to get lighter, more like 50–60%. Okay, so I've tried to shade over my outline now and kind of soften up the edges around here. Sometimes cast shadows have a really sharp edge, sometimes they're a little softer. So I give this one a soft edge. I'm gonna clean up my drawing a bit here. And then I'm gonna shade the background so that we don't have any outline showing in our finished drawing because in reality things are not outlined, so we want those to go away. I'll go ahead and use my 2B pencil since I'm going to shade fairly dark in the background. And you want to try to shade with the edge, not against the edge or parallel to it, at least right at the edge. So now I'm going to shade a little bit of the tabletop so we have no outlines remaining. So you have to shade and you have to give show contrast if you want no outlines. I'm going to switch back to my lighter pencil. And